Hey everybody, how you doing today? I'm here with another knife review. Wanted to show you this new one I just picked up from Kizer. From their, I'd say more entry-level line. I believe the series or category of knives is called the Vanguard series, and it's again more for entry level. It's some of their less expensive options, but they still try to offer you quite a bit for the dollar. And this particular design appealed to me, and that's why I wanted to check it out and see how good it really is for $50. Like, I think it was like 52 or something like that. This one's called, I'm going to mess this up, it's German for companion, but it is Begleiter. I don't sprechen the Deutsch all that well, but that's what it is right there. So, and that's the packaging that it comes in. More like something you'd, I don't know, more like headphones or something. I'm not really used to seeing a packaging like that. I'm used to just normal knife boxes, but anyway, who gives a shit? It's a box for a knife. All I really care about is the knife, right? And what about this knife? What appealed to me? Well, it seemed a little bit streamlined. It seemed a little bit refined, kind of, I don't want to say classy looking, but it has kind of a mix between sleek, modern, and militaristic all in one. And it kind of reminded me of the Ontario Rat or the SOG Flash blade types. A nice drop point, full flat grind. I just really like that. I also was looking at where the top of the finger choil ends and where the cutting edge begins, and the very minimal dead space you have on this knife design. In other words, where my hand ends and where I can start using to cut, it's not really big. And I'll make some comparisons to better depict that later. So this knife is a 3.5-inch blade. I would say it's right around 3 1/3 inch cutting edge. So that's a very good blade size to blade cutting edge ratio. Again, being effective and having a good ratio is the size of the blade to the size of the handle. That is a very good ratio. You don't have a lot of extra handle sticking out there wasting space and adding weight and all that jazz. So also very sleek, straight design. I thought that was kind of appealing, kind of in some ways reminiscent, the straight back like this, like a skyline. Totally different design. I definitely see that, but just something so straight like that, it's often curious to me, like, could it be comfortable? Guess what? This is a comfortable knife. So this blade is a VG10 blade steel. That's what it has. And it says it right there, VG10. And that's the model number. Kizer's notorious for having crazy long model numbers like that on their knives. That's their Kizer logo. And there is the model, the name of the knife. On the pivot, you have steel pivot screws and aluminum that is anodized blue collars around the pivots on both sides. Looks pretty nice. Nice little pop of color there against the green G10 overlay or scales, which are resting on top of steel liners that, as you can probably see right there, have been drilled out to reduce the weight. Pretty cool. They haven't really missed anything yet, have they? Now VG10 is on the upper spectrum of mid-grade steels. It's a very good blade steel, I like. It is known for, from my experiences anyway, being very corrosion resistant. So the fact that they added this, what they would call a titanium coating, titanium gray coating on the blade, that just adds to its corrosion resistance, which is great. especially since this is an EDC knife if I've ever seen one. So you carry it on you. You're going to be using it for a lot of miscellaneous tasks. Pretty awesome that they made it out of this blade steel and with this coating. So I think it looks pretty nice, but it also gives you that added resistance and life. So that's pretty cool. I don't think it's any fancy, titanium nitrate, whatever you call it, coating. I think it's just paint, to be honest. But it looks pretty good. It came in good condition. No crazy smudges, except for there was one right here as I finger it all up. I don't know if you can really pick it up. Oh yeah, maybe you can see it right there. So that came like that, just a little blemish. I mean, who cares? I've also been cutting with it a lot, and I'll get to that in a minute, but it's been holding up really well, this coating, whatever it is. Thumb studs, stainless steel, unfinished, so nice contrast. Again, the polished liners that have been beveled off, nice contrast. Sticks out and protrudes from the G10 scale just a little bit. Looks nice, kind of frames it. We've seen this before on other knives, but it is really nice when you factor in they've also beveled the G10. And the fact that this has a nice angle and the steel pops out and that has a nice angle on it, it's rounded off on the edges, and it really kind of emulates and feels like it's a contoured handle. So it's really comfortable in the hand. So I like that. It is very slim design. It has similar thickness to a lot of other knives, a lot of other full-size knives. It's pretty thin and everything, but it's not the thinnest out there. I think it's, well, you know what? I got some calipers. Let's take a look at how thick this is, get some measurements for you. For those of you, probably only a handful of you who really care about how thick this is, let's see here. It is 0.483. Wow, actually that's a little more narrow than I thought it was going to be. So that's cool. Well under a ½ inch there. That's great. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable that way in the pocket. And this has proven to be a very comfortable everyday carry knife. So thin in this regard, narrow with the overall size of the handle from front to the back side there. If you have really large hands, this may not fill your hand enough, okay? You may feel like this is just a twig of a handle. I have medium to large size hands, and it is a little slim for me, but it's not. That's not a negative observation. It does fit just fine. It does fill the hand just fine. No problems. It's actually really comfortable. I think some of that is also attributed to, as I mentioned, the beveling and the finger choil here. Very nice deep finger choil. Hand rides up all the way up here, like I mentioned before, and then boom, I'm right up there on the cutting edge, and I have really good control over the knife. Okay, I don't need a secondary finger choil to choke up on the blade. It's just not necessary. I think it's a really good looking knife, and this G10 has crazy eye traction, very aggressive, almost feels like a micarta. Very fabric-y feeling, but yeah, very aggressive. Because of the design, the finger choil and the texture of the G10, this isn't going to go anywhere. I've cut a lot of cardboard, a lot of boxes, some rope with it, and I've had no problems with this shifting around and being a problem. Flow-through design, very clean. Couple standoff stainless steel pillars in the back here. Lanyard hole, and like I mentioned before, they did drill out inside that scale on that side. There's no drilling on the other side, however, and that did, the purpose was obviously to reduce some weight. But a really clean design. I love that there's not a lot of screws on this. It's just for the two pillars back here. I don't know if you noticed this extra hole, but that is so that way you can switch this stainless steel pocket clip to the other side. So you can carry right side or left. Alright, and tip up only carry, which I think is a huge win. I'm really glad they did that. Okay, for a few reasons. One, and I've mentioned this in some other videos, but I realize not everybody watches every video and catches every single thing I say. So really short, I prefer tip up carry because I think that it is a little bit safer. Okay, and for me, it's just probably years of conditioning, but the way I pull the knife out of my pocket from a tip up carry, it's just right there, and I'm able to flip it out a lot quicker than, for me, I don't know, I'm just pulling this out and then having to adjust. It's just unfamiliar to me. Very subjective. Just wanted to tell you that's the other reason why I like tip up carry. And the main reason is safety. So I'm a righty. I carry in my right side on my right pocket of my pants. And this is the edge of my pocket. You know, this is the opening. I slide it in. And that blade is tucked against the inside of my pocket. It's not going to pop open, even though the likelihood of that is very low. It decreases that chance because there's a barrier against the spine of the blade. Also, since it's over to the side of the inside of my pocket, if I reach in with my hand, there's no blade here. I'm safe, right? I do realize the likelihood of a blade popping open is slim, right? Actually, tip down carry, which I don't like. If I were to switch the pocket clip, if this had it, this is how it rides in your pocket. This is facing down into your pocket. If that does pop out and you're reaching around in there, you can really slice yourself up really good. And there is a stronger likelihood that that could happen, even if it's a really slim chance, because there's no barrier to stop the blade from opening up. So I'm really glad that they only gave you tip up. Now I understand from a marketing perspective, there may be a few people that see that and kind of write this off because that's what they prefer. They're like, man, I would have got it, but I only want tip down carry. And you know, I guess in that regard, that's a hit against this knife design. But for me, I think it's a complete win. Another reason why I think it's great that they have tip up only carry is you don't have extra holes tapped through around the pivot area where extra crap can get caught in there. Now I do realize, I mean, look at this, it's open anyway, right? You're gonna get some stuff in there around the washers, it's gonna happen, but I just like to minimize having those extra holes because it's just adding to the chances of stuff getting in there, and it does happen, especially on a knife you carry a lot. Also, you don't need extra material over the pivot area to put those holes. So again, really efficient knife in this design. You go right from handle to usable full flat grind cutting blade. Love it. Really, really nicely done. So weight, I don't think I weighed this yet. It is 3.8 ounces. So I wouldn't say it's, you know, the lightest 3.5 inch blade EDC knife out there, definitely not, but it is very good. You know, 1-to-1 ratio, if it's a 3.5 inch blade and I can get 3.5 ounce knife, that is, you know, kind of ideal. Anything lighter, as long as it's not sacrificing reliability, I think that's even better. But if you're just a touch over at 3.8 ounces, no big deal. That's still pretty light. I think that's actually pretty good as far as weight goes. And let me tell you, this knife really seems to be built really, really strong. I would really not hesitate to beat the crap out of this thing. I already have a little bit, nothing crazy, but I've put this thing through a lot of cardboard, through a lot of rope and string and wood even, and you know, I'll get to its cutting performance in a minute, but as far as comfort goes, and you know, having a super solid lockup, you know, no problems, no rattling, no loosening, no lightening of the lock. Everything seems really solid, really rigid, really robust, but not to a point where it's unideal for everyday carry. This is such an appealing everyday carry knife for me. I think it will be for a lot of other people too. That's why I'm reviewing it. The liner lock, steel on steel, and it has a very early lockup. The end point of the lock bar engagement on the blade tang there, you're looking at about 30% lockup. I'll just show you where the line is if this camera will pick it up. You might be able to see that in there. See if I can find something to point at it. Yeah. So you see this line right here? Right there? That is like, dust or gunk or whatever that gets kicked over from the lock rubbing up against the bottom of the blade tang. And so just to the right of that line, see if I can get this to focus in again, that's the actual contact point, oops, wrong way, of where the lock face is engaging. So if you can see that line, it runs right there, just to the right of my ugly finger. Yeah, you're looking at about 30% lockup, which is awesome. The longevity, and this is a little bit thicker than normal blade stock. It's actually kind of thick. Thicker, it's not overdone or overbuilt or whatever, where it's creating drag or provides a really bad or poor angle of the blade. It really cuts really well. Based on the geometry of the blade, but giving you that extra thickness on the blade material gives you a longer lifespan of your lock, which is great. This knife really seems like it's going to be something that lasts a long time, and I'm just thrilled with it. The only critiques I can think of, the centering is just a little bit to the left. I really don't care. It's something I can fix just a little to the left there. It has everything I want, but the one thing that is kind of a big miss on this knife, the edge kind of sucks. Not that the consistency isn't there. Okay, the edge consistency overall is pretty decent, but it's just not sharp. It's not that sharp. It did not cut very well. But I didn't only test this one. My friend got one in all black. So the G10 here on the handle scale is black instead of this olive drab green. And it's still same blue anodized collar around the pivot on both sides. Everything else is the same, just black here. And he asked me to sharpen his. That's the first time I saw this knife. And once I sharpened it up, I saw him cutting with it. He was testing it out when he came to pick it up. And the thing cut like a dream. I asked him, would you mind if I cut with it a little bit? Because all I had cut is like paper and some string. And we started cutting cardboard, and wow, it cut really well. So I know it's capable, but the edge that comes from the factory just sucks. Well, I'm kind of looking around to see if I have anything to show you. Like some paper I could cut or something. I might have something here. Alright, let's see. Jeez, doesn't even want to grip. I just got it in there. And it's really doing more tearing than anything. You can kind of see the curved edge there, and this just the paper just tearing. It's dull, and it took a while to even get in there. Really did not want to cut. I mean, look at that. Horrible, horrible. Let's see. It's Riate. All right, there's a sharp knife. Anyway, how about this Rat 2? Oh, D2 blade steel. Let's see what the edge is like on this $32 knife. Decent. Not amazing. Let's see. It's better, but not amazing. Well, that's pretty decent. Alright. So it is significantly better than this Kizer. Actually, most things that I'm going to compare it to are going to make the Kizer's edge look shitty, because it is. That's the only flaw I really see with this knife. I think this is an outstanding knife. And if you don't mind sharpening it once you get it, I think you're going to be very happy with it. So I guess, you know what, size comparison, overall the Rat 1 is going to be a little bit bigger. However, you have a 3.5-inch blade and a 3.5-inch blade. And you're going to have a little bit more cutting edge by a small percent on the Kizer. So that's nice. Full flat grind. But look at all the extra dead space. I mentioned this before. You know, by the time my finger ends and the cutting edge begins, and you compare that to this, big difference. Right? Big difference. So that's something that I really like. Like, get to it, right? Like, okay, we're done with the handle, give me some cutting edge. This one takes a little bit longer. Still not as bad as something like a Paramilitary 2, where they're like, oh, who needs a blade? Let's just make it a handle. I like handles so much better than blades. Let's just make the blade itself a handle too. Why not? You know, who needs cutting edge? I'm just kidding. I do like Paramilitary 2s. It's a very much a love-hate relationship with that knife. Let's see here. One of the Spyderco budget knives, probably very similar in price. Might be like, I don't know, I'm just guessing this is like $42, so maybe $10 more for the Kizer. And you're getting better blade steel, you're getting better fit and finish overall by far. Way better ergonomics. I'd say a better blade design. I don't like how broad these are, even though they're both full flat grind. That's good. Yeah. Yep. Kind of kicks the Spyderco's ass there. But you're paying like 10 more bucks. You're paying $20 more than the Ontario Rat. So you really need to ask yourself, you know, do you like the looks of it? Do you like all the different features, the design of it? Are you looking for a really sturdy, really nicely built, really sexy, sleek design, if you ask me, Kizer for, you know, $50? I think that anybody who picks one of these up and is looking for a really heavy duty but practical everyday carry option, something that you actually would want to carry every day if you only had one knife and you really wanted to keep it under $100, I think this is a good competitor all the way up to $80-90 at least. High value in this one. That's how I see it anyway. Well, I hope you liked the knife. Hope you liked the video, the review. Let me know in the feedback what your thoughts are. Please subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate all the support on the channel. Please give me some comments and feedback if you have any. I always welcome that. And thanks again for watching. Take care.